to know that, okay, no one here was really exposed because he hadn't been to work for a while.
And I know one of the touch points, or like the signpost, if you will, of what really drove it home to the community at large was when two of our most prominent members of our community actually said that they had tested positive, both the governor and then her running mate, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, who now joins us. He just came in the Zoom room for his appearance. Good morning, LT, and we're kind of talking about some of the big moments of 2020 as we get ready to do our annual end of year special that we're putting together. That's going to happen. So thanks for joining us, Hafaday. Good to see you as always. But can you maybe just to
I was
start?
going to say that the year just went by so fast. Sometimes it was devastating slow, right? When you're just at home and you can't go anywhere. But it just seems like such a blink in time. Last year, this time, I actually went to the Philippines to go to a wedding. One of my former employees got married and I was in the wedding, and it was in Tagaytay. The week later, there was an explosion in the volcano, and I thought that was big. And here we are, a year later, just, really, we already this time last year, remember, we were already seeing like this little news report out of China that there was this virus. And then in January, I think everybody in the world was real, maybe astounded when they saw the teams in Wuhan shutting things down, dragging people out of their homes. And then, I can't wait for this year to be over. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
Everybody.
LT. I remember very, very distinctly the interview that you were good enough to give us and I believe Breet, we talked to the LT as when he was over the worst of it. Obviously, when you had your own battle with coronavirus, and I just remember it. I told people afterwards, I was like, if I can address him commonly, I was like, I've known Josh since high school, and just the condition you were in, even though you were coming off the tail end of it, I was like, that's not the same guy. And you described the symptoms that you were going through, and the condition that you were in while you went through it, and the fact that you had to be apart from your partner and how difficult that was emotionally and everything like that. I mean, that was just such a powerful interview, and I think that really drove the point home to our people about taking this seriously, and it truly is not someone else's problem.
Yeah, you're right. You're the first people really that saw me, and of course your audience, as I was going through that illness. And I was just thinking about it the other day. It was August 13th is when I got my result, and when I actually started feeling those symptoms. And I'm just counting now the time back and thinking about just the different stages of the illness that I went through. Right before the holiday, I was at Cashules and I said hello to a woman. I was gonna say a girl, but we're in our late 40s. So she was she lived kind of the street behind me. So when I'd be coming home from school, sometimes we'd walk together, so, it's a childhood friend. And when I talked to her, she told me that she was in the hospital for 29 days and that she had been a COVID positive. And that was maybe about a month and a half ago. And her first outing to anywhere was to get groceries. She was finally able to have the strength and the will, I guess, to get out, because she had been real traumatized being in the hospital for so long. And then it was so interesting. The next day, some neighbors in the neighborhood, we have a chat, and people were dropping things, cookies and stuff. And the couple that dropped to me, I had known were in the hospital last month, both of them, because it was in our chat, and they asked for some prayers. But they were just sharing with me how the wife went first into the hospital, then the husband, and they were fortunate to be together. But then when they went to the skilled nursing, then the other followed, and they were just kind of like briefly talking to me about their journey, and it really brought back my memory. But it also, there's so many people that since we've had more than 7,200 cases now, there's so many people that have had so many different experiences, and some of the people that I wouldn't think would have been that sick were. And it just kind of emphasizes that you really don't know what will happen. And now that we're, there's some optimism. I'm optimistic because there's additional treatments now for the people that are really at risk of hospitalization. The vaccine is rolling out. And then, people on Guam, I have to say, the people of Guam have shown that they can beat this by getting the scores down. We're wearing, our community seems more receptive to wearing the mask and to doing these things that are a must. And I just want to thank them all for that. And thank you guys also for bringing this to people's homes, because there's still a lot of, obviously we're not in a better place than we were 1 year ago, right? 1 year ago, we had record tourism. We had all this exciting things are going to happen in 2020. And then here we are, the 2020 just kind of passed and get out of here.
Well, I do have one final question for you, LT, before Sabrina and Andy have their questions. But undoubtedly, as we take this retro look back on the year that none of us want to remember, ironically, is the soundbite of the year. I don't think anybody would argue that it was your running mate. Our Magahaga, our governor, gave that soundbite. Where were you when you heard the governor say right here on the link that she goes, this COVID? It's a bitch. Where were you and what was your reaction to that? Because I remember looking at Sabrina and Chris and I was like, okay, my first thing was, okay, was that her PR team who wrote that? Or do you think she just went completely off script?
I think she just said it.
Yeah, because it was brilliant either way.
I didn't listen to it live, and so my phone just started blowing up. And it was much longer that I started seeing some of the memes. So, I guess what, it really summed it up, right? It really does sum it up. And somebody gave her, and I have to ask her, somebody gave her a gift from the States, and I think it was a cup. Or
there were T-shirts made.
We're trying to, I don't think it was, we couldn't say that, hey, this is my cousin, she from the States. Nobody, I don't know who it was. It's kind of like, we're not sure what the Guam connection was, but yeah, that's a funny one. Yeah. I wish I had that line. She probably is the only one that could probably deliver that. I mean, women more than men, I think, could do that one.
Because I was just curious, was your reaction, your jaw immediately went to the floor, or were you just standing there like, yes?
I was cracking up, but I'm not surprised, because even when we talk, she says some funny stuff sometimes, I have to say. She has a humor. We could be in a serious thing, and then, she'll crack a joke to break up the monotony, or to, let people transition to another conversation. Right. But yeah, that was a good one, I have to say.
All right, LT, let's get into some business here. I guess we'll first start with just, you have any new updates? I mean, the president just signed the latest coronavirus relief package. We still got a school waiting for the final green light from the governor. So yeah, if you could just give us an update.
So the current state of the public health emergency expires tomorrow.
Yes.
So we are expecting to renew that emergency, but we're working on some language right now to forecast, or for the governor she's going to make some final decisions today on dates that she will forecast to do some further openings. But I would say that right now the time and attention has been on coordinating with the Guam public school system and the other schools, and that's still ongoing. In fact, I was on an email with the superintendent of Catholic schools is waiting for confirmation for a meeting today. And we've been communicating, pretty often and with my staff to try and make sure everything is aligned. So public health still has been working on a revised guidance. I haven't seen that final product yet. It will be based on the last school guidance that was given back in July, with, of course, a lot of improvements based on, the situation that has occurred between July and now. all geared towards prepping school to open. There are a lot of parents. I've been getting messages, very mixed messages. Some people are looking forward to it, and other parents are, and some teachers are just outright um, against it. And it really is going to come down to, I've said this before, it's going to come down to a choice that the parents and the households are going to be making. But no matter what, at least I could say for public school students, there will be a continuing mandate for the department. And this is with their cooperation and agreement that there will still be distance education that will be offered along with face-to-face. But so the last week, we've been really working and coordinating between the Director of Public Health and the Superintendent of Education, also about their staff. You know, they've had a number of social workers and nurses that have been at public health that are in the process of being returned to the Department of Education to operate. But we are speaking about continued authorities that all these employees will have, basically having public health employee status at the same time while they get back to the school system. And we think this is going to help with making sure that we're able to respond very fast on school site to any occurrence of a positive case or a threat of a positive case on school campus. The other thing we're doing, and this is also something that is actively being undertaken, is working with University of Guam and the Guam Community College on their reopening plans as well. And both of them are going to be offering a mix. I believe that President Okada, if and when you get to speak with her, a good portion of her classes will be online, but those that require shop, you know, there's some things at GCC that require interaction. You have to be able to have a refrigerator, you have to, you know, and even at the university with their nursing students who've already been allowed to go back and complete some of the coursework, there's going to be some on-site instruction for them. And so there's a whole bunch of balance happening in terms of coordinating. We're not there yet. We're on their way there. We're planning for the return, and without preempting the governor and what her decision will be and the executive order that she will promulgate by tomorrow, I would say that we will set a date in which we are going to authorize return of school, but with the condition that but dependent and contingent on public health giving out their guidance to the schools and their process. And there's been a good deal of consultation, still more consultation, but I think at least for planning purposes, you know, already the superintendent of education's talked about January 19th for the Guam public school system. And that looks like the date that we'll try and move everybody to. But again, this is going to be a choice, and it's not going to be mandatory, at least not for the public school students. For the private schools, they're going to have to make their choices. And I believe based on discussing our discussions with some of them will continue to have some distance learning support concurrently with return to face-to-face. But those are all decisions that they will make based on the resources they have and, you know, how responsive their school community is to this. But I would expect over the next few weeks, there'll be some more interaction, at least for the public schools, where they'll go out and do a bit more parent meetings, and then start an effort to go out and identify and do home visits for the 500 kids that are not registered right now. So the other thing I'll probably tell you is the last couple weeks, I've been focused personally on the situation with social work services for children. Part of it came from seeing what was going on at the global shelter, but going in and peering into what's going on with child protective services in particular, and seeing how we need to infuse a whole bunch of resources to make sure that all the cases and the referrals are being looked at timely. And there's been some challenges, I would say, because there have been, with the pandemic, we're expecting that we would, when there more children are at face-to-face, most referrals come from the school system. So I'm trying to also work on stepping up resources on that side to prepare for that and to make sure that we start getting the social workers and support staff trained to start doing home visits. That's a big goal of mine, to make sure that we support so that they can do that concurrently when we get the children coming back into the school system.
So we talk about reopening of schools, this executive order that will be coming out, you said tomorrow, by the governor. Okay. What about reopening of government of Guam? We talked to Daphne earlier, and she was mentioning that they've kind of shifted their focus primarily on reopening, and they're still kind of waiting to see what the final call will be. Will that be included? Any sort of wording regarding the reopening of government of Guam agencies?
Yes, no, that is a priority. So, that's one of the reasons the governor did not choose to have a extra holiday last Thursday when the president declared the holiday. Is we recognize that, especially now with so many people needing services, government employees, public servants have to provide those services. Some of them have been able, if they're able to do the work, could be planners, could be folks in fiscal that are able to work remotely to mitigate occupancy of buildings, and that will continue to be encouraged. But those counters are going to be open. If they're not already open, there should be open, and there should be an expansion coming as well. And that's because each director has been instructed to make sure that they return services back and catch up with some work. There is some work to be caught up. I know we're seeing it at Guam Land Use Commission, for example, where because we had to do an executive order several months ago to try and help facilitate their meetings. Some boards were not authorized to meet electronically, and so we've been moving things to that. You'll see some boards have done that already to try and get things moving, but there's a tremendous amount of work in the permitting side of the house. Even pre-pandemic, there's a little less regulators than there should be, but there is demand, and we want to see a lot of forward movement in making progress on a lot of the planning, the permitting side of the government operations to try and push up the economic activity that is occurring and that can occur with construction, with capital improvement projects, things like that. Those are things for sure. Now, the other side of it is access to entitlement programs, right? And so I'm looking at public health, trying to see, whether or not the processing time can increase, knowing that more people have been made eligible for entitlements because of their employment situation. And then, of course, there still are cases at Guam Department of Labor for PUA claims that still need to be worked on. I would just say that we've asked them to expand or improve their call center over there. I'll give you an example. I had a constituent came in, and they had a whole bunch of people that worked in a nail salon that had a language issue, that didn't understand that they were missing one element of an application. And so when they were helped, they were able to get their back pay. So that also is another area I would say that we need to, of course, I want to thank the government employees that are doing it, but for sure, we're depending on them to increase the access and the amount and the time period in which they can get these claims out. People are depending on the money, and fortunately, the president finally signed the CARES Act. And now the next step is, I guess, the Congress has to override his veto of the National
NDA.
Defense Act. right? Which is like a major part of the economy at this point,
Yeah,
military.
yeah, I know. We spoke with Congressman Khalili Sablan. He was on the show earlier this week, and he said that this is the first president in so many years to actually veto the NDAA. And so you're right. Congress is supposed to be meeting today to possibly override that veto, and also discuss increasing the amounts for stimulus checks. So yeah, definitely something to watch.
Right. And I'm hopeful that maybe the president can carve out some of the votes from his party to get that. That it's real interesting. You think I'm always that we're living in a real interesting time right now, and I have to say I'm very concerned about what's been happening with the president and counting down to January 20th, and hopeful that he will do what is right and facilitate a good peaceful transition of power. But I am very I don't know, people don't realize this is the most dangerous time this country has had in a long time. People kind of think, oh, he's just being funny. It's not funny. we're seriously he has people advocating for the military to go in and take over elections. Those are things that countries that are authoritarian or that are not democratic do, and that's not something that should happen here in the United States for sure. It's people don't realize it's a big issue.
Do you know if anybody from Guam will be going to the inauguration?
Well, they've discouraged people from going. So normally, right, if we weren't in a pandemic, then the governor likely will be going because the governors get to go. The lieutenant governors not so much, unless we have to tag team. But no, they've been. We haven't had too many more details, but we've been notified and encouraged to stay. And it looks like this inauguration will be in line with how the Democrats and the Republicans did their nominating conventions. More the Democrats, because they're the ones that really didn't have a big gathering. But that's what we can expect.
What about the inauguration here for the 36th Guam legislature? Have you heard anything about who's going to be speaker or vice speaker? Or?
I have not. I heard that they're caucusing, and I was just, I guess we would know. It's less than 2 weeks away, so
yeah, we've been kind of waiting to hear.
I went to. I'm curious how they're going to do it. I went to the Youth Congress did an inauguration 2 Saturdays ago, and I attended, and there were. You might have seen some. Normally, right? You give the certificate to the speaker, and the chief justices had them flash the certificate. They did a quick ceremony, and people were gone. But yeah, so we have them, and then of course the mayors will be inaugurated as well. And they're already, I hear, are going to do. I think they might do an outdoor one. I don't have the revised details yet, but looking forward to seeing what the leadership is. The leadership is in the hands of the senators. They have to be the ones to determine who their leader is, and all we can do is work together when we can. Hopefully, more than we have been. But
CNMI, they're preparing to reopen tourism. I believe it's to South Korea, establishing this corridor next month. And the GVB, they're scheduled to hold their last virtual membership meeting today, and they're preparing to, present their recovery initiatives for 2021, and also looking ahead towards 2021. Have you heard anything about what their recovery initiatives are?
Well, a lot of the focus is going to be on what our quarantine rules are going to be. And I can see that we're looking forward to making some adjustments there with regards to the countries. The only kinker here, I think, right now, is this new strand or new strain of virus that has caused the Japan to close their borders to foreigners, right? And depending on the situation, that could impact us already. I think Japan Airlines had announced a delay in passenger service until March. So we're committed to try and getting things moving. Right now, we're in the stage of making sure that our industry and our employees are doing well, and we've got these numbers down. We need to hold them. I think the next step that we'll be looking at is how we're going to treat and set up all the systems to make sure that we can have a inbound process that's complementary to tourism, but balanced with keeping people safe. So access to testing, of course, testing is an issue, and the type of testing. I know that there's a pilot project that is going to launch soon. They're preparing for it at the airport to do some testing. Details still pending. It really wouldn't be targeted really towards the tourists that come here for shorter stays, because actually the imprint of those shorter stays are a little less than the ones with longer stays and that are integrated into the community. But looking at state of Hawaii to see their experience, optimistic about what they've been doing. And then of course the airlines, a lot of airlines are adding testing on as part of a package to encourage air travel. Those are all kind of moving parts that I think will factor into what they have. But I'll be looking forward to seeing more details from what they're looking at and trying to be supportive. And then of course, they've also, there's a big controversy or discussion going on between the folks in tourism and the folks in the Cannabis Control Board. So I also am observing and trying to absorb as much information to make sure we strike a balance that maintains, the posture that we have.
Yeah.
But I also would like to see, since, personally speaking, I would love to get the same amount of revenues in tourism, but with less people. So if 500,000 people are coming, resulting in $30 million versus 1.5 and 30, then obviously you rather go for the quality. And I'm hopeful, and I hear that there are folks in the industry trying to find that balance and try and refresh what Guam is going to be offering to the rest of the world. And I think that's an exciting thing that we should be part of.
Yeah. And for people who are listening, the Cannabis Control Commission, actually, they're having another meeting this week. I think it's tomorrow. So Peter Santos will be covering that. LT, is there any updates you can provide regarding the vaccination committee meeting that they held yesterday? They're not open to the public, so we can't really watch. But do you know what happened?
I don't know what happened, but I'm going to find out what happens when I get into the next meeting that I'm in.
All right.
I know that all I know is that yesterday, there's a large amount or different types and classification that need to happen for critical workers and how they step that up. So we have public health has received requests from the federal government, from federal law enforcement, from the courts. We have frontliners. Of course, we also have the people frontline in the grocery stores, that interact with people. So I believe that they were discussing that last night. I was just thinking about that on my way in, that I'm going to be hearing what's going on and see where they are.
Mm-hmm. Real quickly, homeless?
Anything? No, nothing changed on the homeless side yet. We've been, last week I told you we've been focusing on giving and trying to meet their demands. But we're in the same posture. We need to find, I feel like we need to find a better facility that's going to be more conducive to the kids. Global's not it. But still, that still is, that's kind of like my feeling. This is like my saga continues trying to find good space, but I'm not going to be swayed. We'll find it. We'll get it. We have to get it.
Yeah. Are you tracking what's happening with the Guam Housing Corporation, GORA, on the mortgage rent relief program and the problems they're having?
So mortgage relief seems to be more problematic than rent relief. Rent relief seems to be working well. The money is given to both Catholic Social Service and Salvation Army to push that out. But I'm probing into that, talking about how the receiving PUA has put people in a disadvantage, and I don't think it's right. So I'm probing that more to see what's going on and what's going on with other jurisdictions. What are they experiencing, and how we can try and overcome what looks like to be a barrier where they're excluding. I was just telling Gura Director, I'd really like to talk to the HUD folks. There's a reason why Congress put the money in, is to try and push it out, and federal agencies need to be helpful and try and empower people to get the help and not disqualify them or put them in a position to make them have to sell their homes. The whole mission is to try and keep people in their homes, and I don't think that's right. So I feel I need to, there's more information I'm not seeing that I want to hear directly from them, whether or not how other jurisdictions are overcoming this, because I'm not sure yet.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else?
No, I just want to wish everybody a happy new year. I can't wait to get 2020 behind us. And although 2021 is still going to be challenging, we still have a virus on the island, and we still will be working our way, but the light is there at the end of the tunnel. And I just want to thank you, Sabrina and Andy and Chris, I guess he's on vacation. Much deserved, and Jason and everybody there in KOEM. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for the work that you're doing, really, to bring people. And although sometimes, the news isn't always the most flattering for us in public service, but the news is the news, right? It's journalism is something that we celebrate, being in a democracy. So I'm optimistic that we'll have a better 2021, and looking forward to working with you all. And I guess I'll talk to you next year.
Yeah. Wait. I did remember now what I wanted to ask you. Sorry. And this was regarding the bills that are before the Adelup. Any word on are we going to see the governor take action this week? Because there's one bill that kind of just stands out for me, and that's the one, Bill 368, and giving over responsibilities that normally would be the Department of Revenue and Taxation's responsibilities in terms of enforcing tax
for collecting taxes on cigarettes. I guess
because
no matter what, revenue tax has to be the authority to collect the taxes, right? I think that you can bring on it's kind of like their contract for their tax collection for they have DMR, right? That helps them with their financial management system. But they can't and shouldn't have DMR be the tax collector. DMR is a tool for them to use. So revenue tax has to be the tax collector. And I see that what they need some assistance getting their cigarette stamp program at play. So I think what I would say is that, and I've seen some of the correspondence coming in from people formerly in the department or people in the industry that are concerned about third parties doing tax collection. Revenue tax has to do the tax collection. Mm-hmm. And if another party or a contractor or another government maybe enables us to have access to a partner to help, that's one thing. But I don't see private sector going out to collect the cigarette taxes, whether or not, but purchasing the machines or the service, I could see that. That's already authorized in the statute.
Right.
But so I guess that's what I would say is that no matter what revenue tax is, the tax authority, they can't devolve that, and I would be against that anyway.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Happy New Year. Stay safe.
Happy New Year. And see you next year.
See you next year.
I promise I'll see what I can do to grow my hair and do a new.
Yeah, I hear you. Same.
I'm not sure it's gonna work, but
yeah, I'm thinking of growing out my bangs.
Okay.
Thanks, LT.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
And actually, let history show that it was Josh Tenorio who was the first one to use that joke on this show about see you next year. Everybody always wants to say, like, the week leading up to, see you next year, but
yeah,
he can claim that.
What a year, though. Oh, my goodness. He's right.
What
though.
a
He's
year.
trying to get rid of this year, and it did kind of went. It went by so fast, but it kind of didn't.
I was gonna say, because like I remember, February I went on my vacation. That seems like just a month ago, but also 15 years ago. So time this year, it speeds up, slows down. It's so weird. I mean, for months I lost track of what